Hey VC, this is Mark with Vinyl Crush, and I'm entering into Mazzy's San Francisco art contest for 3,000 subs, which has gone way over since then. I'm going to try and hit all the categories and get it done in less than 5 minutes. 1, 2, 3, go. So my first album is from 1980. The band is Chrome. This is called Red Exposure. They're a post-punk, early industrial rock group. They're experimental, artsy, really interesting, dark, fun, interesting, crazy stuff. This is first Canadian pressing on Beggar's Banquet label, and one of my favorite songs on here is called Jonestown. And from there I'm going to transition from Beggar's Banquet to Rolling Stones to Brian Jonestown Massacre. This came out in 1996. This is a 2017 reissue. I'll show you that. And so this is sort of their take on, it's a adding on to their Satanic Majesty's Request, the album by the Rolling Stones. It's a psych rock album. It's quite good. Lots of droning sitars and tablas and acoustic guitars. It's kind of like Donovan and the Beatles and the Stones got together one day and took a whole bunch of drugs, including some opiates. They got really high and decided to record a psych album. Not that I would know what that was like. And one of my favorite songs on here is called Donovan Said. Another one, Anemone, was kind of a hit off of this. If you have never heard that song, please listen to it. It's quite beautiful. Then we jump to 2011, seventh album by Primus called Green Naugahyde. And this is, let me just show you. First of all, 2 albums, 45 RPM, beautiful green vinyl. This is first pressing. The album cover, look at that art. It's just beautiful. And then look at the inside. Incredibly beautiful, beautiful artwork on this. Incredibly dirty, nasty, hard, funky metal, rock, experimental, really great. Another San Francisco band. Love the music. Next, I'm going to go with the artist. My artist from San Francisco is KRK Ryden. This is his book called Double Talk on homographs. And so let's see, there's a letter in here from KRK. And look, it's a letter to Elise. Now, there's a song by that name. Who did that song? I wonder. Maybe you could leave the answer in the comments below if you know. Here is one of the homographs. This is Does and Does, and you can see, and I just love the artwork on here. It's just quirky and crazy and old school, really interesting. A good artist out of San Francisco. And a side note, his brother Mark Ryden is also a famous artist, and he did the cover for Jeff Beck Guitar Shop. Just thought I'd throw that in for the fun of it. Next we have a writer, Frank Robinson. He's an American sci-fi techno-thriller writer. He died about 6 or 7 years ago. His first book was called The Power, written in 1956. And but the book that really got him sort of on the map was called The Glass Inferno, which was one of the source materials to a San Francisco filmed movie about San Francisco called The Towering Inferno. And so this is another San Francisco movie written by a San Francisco writer, filmed and about in San Francisco. So Frank Robinson is also a friend of my family's. He was a collector of science fiction, pulp fiction books, and my father is kind of famous in that world. So he and Frank met. I got to meet Frank Robinson. He would often send my parents, here's a letter to them, his books before they were published. And so this is an early, I think this is a second version of a book called The Waiting that came out in 1999. And Frank was a beautiful man. He also wrote speeches for Harvey Milk. He was a consultant on the film for Harvey Milk, and the speech that Harvey made in that movie was a speech that Frank wrote. So having said all that, I think we're going to come to a close in just about 5 minutes. Thank you so much for listening. Toodaloo.